The biggest thing that I let go of is the accounting and the bookkeeping, right? Believe it or not, up until 2017, the team would put time entries, and for you MSP owners out there, the agreements come in and this, and I would go in there and invoice to send, not really check anything, but I would know that it was going out. When I gave up that element in terms of the invoice creation, the daily bookkeeping, AR, AP, world of difference. They make me look JV. And I was handling a lot less workload than they were because the company's a lot bigger.
Hey guys, Damien Stevens, host of MSP Mindset, founder and CEO of Servosity. Today I continue my mission to interview 100 of the fastest growing and most interesting MSPs on the planet and write my book on it. Today I am blessed to be joined by Anthony Mangiluso, and he shares how he struggled for a decade to get his MSP to 10 employees. And then something changed and he skyrocketed to 240 employees. If you want to learn how he did this, how he employs things like a tech tank to buy back his time and more, don't miss out on our conversation today. Anthony, I want to dig into your journey. I think it's really, really interesting. The headline, right, I think is something around 230 or so employees, I think 600 plus clients. I want to go back to like when you started and why you started.
So it's interesting, right? I started in 2000. I was a junior at Rowan University, which is a college in New Jersey. And ironically enough, Rowan University was not the most respected college. I graduated from a pretty big public school here in South Jersey, Shawnee High School. I was ranked number 2 in the grades.
Oh, wow.
And, the number 1 person went to Yale. The number 3 person went to Harvard. I went to Rowan, so the school wasn't necessarily happy about my choice. But there was a reason for that. The reason that I went to Rowan, it was actually the number 2 ranked radio TV film, which obviously has nothing to do with IT. But it was the ranked number 2 college for RTF, right behind Syracuse here on the East Coast. I'm not saying number 2 in the country. We're talking East Coast. And that was always a dream of mine to be on the radio or TV.
That's cool.
So I ended up going to Rowan. And I had a switch in majors. A sociology professor, really pushed me very hard to get into the College of Business. And, I fought him. I never wanted to be a computer science person, right? I was always a more social butterfly. I like to talk to people, and I had the appetite for it, but I just didn't want to sit at a desk and code all day.
Mm-hmm.
And he strongly reminded me that there was this thing called, now it's going to sound old now, but it was very trendy back then, MIS, Management Information Systems, the perfect blend of computers and people skills with business. So I switched that college, and in a very luck, right? A lot of people, I'm not a big luck guy, right? I don't believe in good luck, bad luck, right? Stuff just happens. But my parents' neighbor had an issue with a local IT provider that did residential stuff. Think about the Geek Squad before the Geek Squad. It was called Debug It. I'm only saying the name because they've been out of business for 15 years, so I'm not hurting anyone's feelings. And they charged them a boatload of money, and they didn't fix the problem. It was something very simple. It was a scanner driver. I think they charged over $300. They offered, since the scanner was broken, they were going to recycle it for them. And back then, 2000, a scanner, 300 DPI, you're talking about $1,000. I mean, we're talking real money. So they ended up calling my parents, right? Great entrepreneurial story, and said, hey, you think your son could come look at this? I went over and fixed the thing in 10 minutes. It was, for all the IT people, it was one of the simplest things. They were missing the software driver. If you went to Device Manager back in Windows 98, you saw that question mark. I literally went online with my Comcast 1 meg connection, downloaded the driver, and then magically that ribbon started moving and the scanner was going. So my neighbors, one of them was a retired executive vice president over at Coca-Cola. And he's like, wow, these people are charging all this money, and we spent $300. You fixed it in 10 minutes. And he said, you should start a computer company. So 20 years old, like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. And I said, well, what do I charge? He goes, well, they have a business and overhead and all this, and they were over $100 an hour. Remember, 2000, that would be 300 an hour now, maybe more with inflation.
Yeah.
So he's like, what do you make? So very proudly, I shared that I made the highest union wage at Acme Supermarkets, filling produce at $10.75 an hour. And sorry about that. I forgot to D&D my phone. But so we ended up changing the rate to $40 an hour. So that was my new 20-year-old rate. And, we just went on from there. And I never in a million years thought, we'd be where we're at now. It just, I was a kid and I was just so excited that, hey, maybe I could pick up 20, 25 hours a week making that rate.
Yeah. Yeah. And at 40 instead of 10.75, 20 hours is like an infinite amount of money.
Yep. It was way better. And I mean, look, working produce was also tough, right? You're in the cold, you're putting 50-pound bags of potatoes and 40-pound boxes of bananas and you're lifting them and you're running them around. So it was really the dream at that point.
That was the first client. Did you just make a blind leap? How did you get started?
So they also helped me a lot tremendously. And it's, life's full circle, right? So my parents' neighbor had an amazing speaking voice. And she had a business where she was a realtor, but she would also do voiceovers where back in the day, VHS tapes, imagine that. That's how they would sell homes. They would give you a virtual tour through your TV. You get this small VHS tape. And she was actually the one that did the voiceover for the home my parents bought. So really talking about connecting families. And after I made some business cards, I established a business phone number. She made a handwritten note basically summarizing the situation that she had with the local vendor. And hey, basically give this kid a chance. He's great, he's cheap, and he can help you. And if you remember, for anyone probably over 45, if you were at an office or a real estate office, there was no email. There was this cabinets on the wall that everyone had their box, right? Their mailbox. So she wrote this handwritten letter. She Xerox copied my card at the bottom, and she put it in every realtor's mailbox. Oh, wow. And the realtors started calling me. Well, simultaneously, while she did that, I received permission from my store manager at Acme Supermarkets to basically put some marketing materials on the wall. And I'm talking, when I say marketing materials, it was a one-pager with the phone numbers that you rip off. Mm-hmm. So I started to really grow from there. And the one thing I was fortunate about working with a lot of realtors was I learned how they marketed, right? It was all, really C2C, right? I don't even want to say the realtors are B, right? It's C2C, but B2C. And so on the back of all the original Pro Computer Service cards, not PCS, because computer was a very good term back in the day, not anymore, it would say on the back of all my cards, the best compliment that you could give me is a referral to family or friends. And if you look at every real estate person's card in 2000, that's what it said. Mm-hmm. And then what I did, embarrassingly enough now, when I look back 20 years, I created the Anthony dollar. So I took a dollar bill, I photoshopped it, turned it into 1 hour of free service. I look so young and so green, but it was literally like this cheesy picture like of me, like, and if you referred me, I gave you an Anthony dollar, which basically gave you an hour of my labor as a thank you for helping my business grow. And the realtors loved it. They would compete over that.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great business that's referral driven. Hey guys, Damien here. As I continue to interview the top MSPs in the world, one thing has become incredibly clear. It's time that we let go. Even more than that, every time I focus on my zone of genius and get out of the way and do the very few things I'm good at and delegate to others, I'm ready for that next level of growth. One way that I could help you is with Servosity. We co-manage your backups and disaster recovery so you can focus on what you do best, let us do the rest, and then what we do is we test the backups every single day so you never have to worry. If you'd like to engage us or just learn more, click the link below. So how long did it take you to get to 10 employees?
Well, 10 employees, pretty much add a year for each one, right? 10 years. I worked about the first 2.5, 3 years by myself. Mm-hmm. I was up to about 500 or 600 residential clients. And while that sounds like the dream, when you're doing residential IT, even corporate now, but even worse back then, there was no downtime.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty much my life, I was working Monday through Friday, on the road 8 to 10 hours a day. I had to come home. I had to manually type in all my billing direct into QuickBooks. Then I had to print all the invoices out, get them folded, put it in the mail. And then Saturdays were probably like 4 to 6 hours. And then some days were always about a half day, 4 or 5 hours. Again, varied based on traffic, location, things like that. But you would get called all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter. What I found over time was that for some reason Wednesday nights were my slowest, so that was my date night at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But never a guarantee that it would be clean.
Mm-hmm. So, 10 years to 10 employees. What lessons did you learn during that period?
I learned a lot. I mean, number one, I wish I learned at that point was to be able to delegate and trust people more. Mm-hmm. Because my life would have been a little easier. Like many of the entrepreneurs I'm sure are listening, you always feel like you could do things better. And maybe some you do, some you don't, but you'll never know if you don't give someone a try.
Mm-hmm.
I also learned quite a bit, how much really the community matters. So one of the things, as busy as I was, and no matter what was going on in my life, I always made sure I was, volunteering for something. You couldn't do 10 things, but figure out 1 or 2 things that were very important. And also the power of relationships. If you look now, we're going to be celebrating our 25th year this year, right? So 15 years after 10. And I can tell you that some of my closest friends, closest allies, closest partners are folks that I went through that first 10 years with. Now, I wish it was everyone, right?
Yeah.
But if you look statistically, out of every 10 businesses, only 1 makes it 10 years statistically. Mm-hmm. And then of those businesses that really make it that first 10 years, within the next 5 or 10 years, 1 of those 10 are out too. Mm-hmm. So to have really I'll call it a posse of good people. I'm from Philly, so I'm allowed to say posse. Is special, and it's important, and it's for these young entrepreneurs and these new business owners. Look to your left and look to your right and figure out who has the work ethic, who's going to be there, and guess what? They might be lifelong friends and partners with you.
Yeah. You have any advice on that? Because I think it's easy to miss, especially when I was younger. Of how I get asked that all the time. Like, who do I find? How do I look for them? What do I look for in them?
So I got to tell you, it's tough. For me, it's all gut, right? And I'll kind of expand on that, right? I think I've had the best blessing, which was also tough, right? And tough times make tough people. Yeah. My parents were bar owners in Southwest Philadelphia in the 80s, right? I grew up 15 minutes from the Philadelphia airport. And I could tell you in 1980, it wasn't a great neighborhood. I could tell you right now, it's a lot worse. And I also, my grade school, Our Lady of Loretto, was essentially right across the street from my dad's bar. So when we walked to the park as kids in Philly, you had to worry about getting attacked, as stupid as it sounds. So you almost developed eyes behind your head. You had a sense, you were listening for things. But also, a lot of times after grade school and even high school, I would go to my dad's bar. And you definitely get to learn a lot about people when they're drinking at 2 p.m. and maybe they were there from noon. And you just hear how people talk. And I can tell you Philly bars, especially back in the day, you got your bookie guy here and, definitely all your different characters, right? Like the old movies. So I really feel like, as I would say in A Bronx Tale, I was able to get 2 educations, right? So I got my street smarts, where I truly credit the gut feeling I get on people. I could tell in the city, if someone might want to, make a move, or if someone was disingenuous, and, seeing, my dad at the bar, if someone owed a tab, and just the different personalities. A lot of times, the best dressed and strong people were actually the weakest people. Mm-hmm. And so I don't really know how to share that experience other than living it. But I still, to this day, I feel like if I'm in a room with someone maximum amount of time, 15 minutes, by looking at their body language, their mannerisms, how they talk, what they're doing. Am I right all the time? No. I would rank my gut though as a solid B plus, and I'll take the B plus. And the ones I'm wrong with, guess what? They'll end up coming and making it through anyway, and being a part of the team and a part of the family. But people are tough, and I think in this generation, a lot of the folks aren't going to even have that experience because they're texting people, they're making fake aliases on social media. So, everyone posts the greatest part of their life, right?
Yeah.
When we were growing up as kids, you talk to your friend, good days, bad days, but hey, if you go on Facebook or Instagram, everyone's perfect, happy, and life's the best.
Oh yeah, yeah. And if that's not good enough, there's a filter for it, right?
Or two.
You were sharing about the challenges growing from 10 to 30 employees. What are some of the challenges you felt like you went through there in that period of growth?
Yeah, I might need my shrink to come in here on that one. It's funny. I mean, what I think I shared with you offline that the most fun I've had in my life was when it was me up to about 15 people.
Mm-hmm.
We were a team. It was all for one for all. We actually created the tradition of Beer 30 when we were under 15 people. And what Beer 30 simply was, when we were doing residential IT in the early 2000s, our phones were dead on Fridays. We had no work. So I had a folding machine and, probably 1,000 printed advertisements. So the deal was, if all your ticket notes were in and everything was good, you would go to the folding machine. It would do a trifold. If you stuffed, I even forget if it was 50 or 100 envelopes and put a stamp on it, got it in the mail, you would have to have a beer, and then you could go home. So folks were getting paid till 5 o'clock, 4:30, and they were leaving at 1 because I'm not going to keep them there. They just helped me with marketing.
Yeah.
And I started to notice a change once we got to that 15 to 30 mark. And, at back then, right, we were all young. I would say, average team member age might have been 23 years old. And what would happen is people would start to lobby for different positions, and now they wanted power. And it was just tough because I had the team members trained to a point where we were not the highest paying company, right? Maybe when they first started, they were young. It's like, $17 an hour, 15, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now it's like, I've been here for a year and a half, and I could go to Comcast and make $10,000 more. And I definitely understood it, right? Because, whether it's a significant other, whether it's a personal goal, whatever it is. And, I knew a lot about money and finances and taxes, even at a very young age. And they didn't. I'm like, listen, you have total freedom here. You have Beer 30 every Friday. No one's up your butt, per se. If you go to Comcast for $10,000 more, you're really making like $6,000 a year more.
Mm-hmm.
And number one, you're not going to be working 34 hours, right? You're going to be working 50. You're not going to have the work-life balance. You're not going to have the ability just to call out whenever you want. You're not going to be able to, go have a drink with your boss or lunch or kick in my door and talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not over there. So there just became there was a lot of more, I guess the best way to say is the chest got a little more puffed out.
Mm-hmm.
And then interesting enough, we had culturally, we hired someone from a bigger company I thought was going to, help us take this all in. And it was the worst hire ever made. And he was a bad service manager and flipped the culture. And what I did learn during that time as we went from 15 to 30, that you can almost, and again, our culture was so good and is again, but this man almost destroyed our culture.
Mm-hmm.
And if our culture wasn't as strong as it was, I don't know if we would have made it through as a business. I mean, it was that toxic. And the sad part was, and this is people in general, he didn't even realize he was that toxic. Like there was, when I let him go, everyone loves me. It's great. It's like, we tried to have like 15 breakfasts, lunches, you name it. And yeah, so again, though, that's one of the, maybe if I was a little older, maybe a little bit more experienced when I was business, maybe I would have picked it up. But I didn't realize how much we were teetering on the dark side.
Yeah, I can relate to that. So one thing that's interesting to me, I think we can all relate to, the struggle taking a decade, maybe longer, to get to 10 employees. But something happened 2010 to I think 18. You went from 10 to 60 or 70 employees. What happened? What changed in you?
So I think a few things. I was hit very hard by the mortgage crash in 2009, 2008. So at one point, right around that time, we were probably doing about, call it $2.4 million a year in annual revenue. So our biggest customer at that point was the number one subprime lender in New Jersey. You could actually probably still Google it. It was called Mid-Atlantic Capital. And this was a time when, as PCS, I was doing software and web, like anything we could do to make a buck we were doing, where now we stay in our lane, right? We learned, it's riches and niches, right? You don't need to be everything to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And so this mortgage company started to get, really behind. And they weren't paying for the software. And all their branches, the net branches, which were all business owners, all their money was at headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a few visits up to Sewell and, everything's fine. Well, I basically bought my first office condo and at the same time, my first real home. Unsolicited, on a Friday, BCC'd, I get an email from this guy, Ben, who was pretty high up there. And it was a mass email saying, hey, we'd like to thank everyone for all your years of friendship and partnership, but effective immediately, Mid-Atlantic Capital is going into bankruptcy.
Wow.
So it's like, oh my God, right? So I just lost 40-50% of my business via email.
Wow.
They owed us of the $2-some million on the street, probably $250. I'm not getting that back.
Yeah.
And I just remember laying in my bed, looking at my fan, spinning and spinning, going, what happened? It was one of the biggest knockout punches that I've had. So I'm a big Rocky fan. And, what do they say, right? You got to fight. You got to make it happen, right? You can't, if you quit, you're done. You're a loser, right?
That's it.
So right around the end of 2009, 2010, I created what I called the Every Night Club. Or I said, 2010. I literally said, I am going to go out every night till I make up this revenue. I got people that, matter, a big deal to me. It wasn't my fault this happened, but it surely wasn't their fault.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know what to do. So, you would see me. I don't care if it was the Dog Catchers Association. I was there. I was handing out cards, weekends, rotaries, galas. It was probably unhealthy at some level, but I didn't know what to do.
Sure.
And fortunately, by getting so involved, everyone in the community knew who I was, and they knew I was hustling. And, what I learned, it's great to write a check to nonprofits and all this, but it's even greater to clock in a lot of time with people where they get to know you. Mm. So I was the guy that donated money and time. So it really helped. And it probably took, I don't want to say a full year, shockingly, a little less, but we recovered. Yeah. And that was cool.
That's really cool. So you recovered because of the mortgage crisis. You had about 10 going into it, and now you couldn't keep your 10 folks. But how do you go in 7 or 8 years to 60 or 70?
So a couple things. So we pivoted in a few areas. Our Vineland office and my partner out there, Mark Mosley, had a real good expertise with IQMS, now called Delmia Works. Very high-end manufacturing. They were fantastic at it. So we started picking up clients in that area. Well, on the flip side, aside from the manufacturing side, EHR, EMR, electronic health, electronic medical records really started to make a push. So I saw that as an opportunity that we need to partner with some of these companies, because all these little doctors' offices, which again, they were a lot more prevalent then, right? Now it's all big medical and hospital systems and things like that. So we really tried to make ourselves an expert. We were actually, I think, the first ever eClinicalWorks partner. I can't validate that or say that, but when I called them, they basically like, yeah, we'll make a partner program. So when I went out to pitch a place, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm an eClinicalWorks partner. And they're like, that exists? I'm like, well, yeah, here's the eClinical's email confirming. So we started really doing things like that. So for us and for me, it's always trying to find, what's next, right? Where's the puck? Not where's the puck at? Where's it going to be, as Gretzky would say, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you attribute that kind of growth 6 or 7 times to being in the right place, right time with medical records and getting involved in the community and ultimately your hustle?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, there were so many things. Like 2010 was really a melting pot, as we grow into those industries. In April of 2025, I'll be on the local news in our region here for 16 years. So I was able to get a lot of TV time. And, as funny as it sounds, right, I could say the same thing, you and I talking or in a room, but if someone sees it on a news broadcast, there's just more legitimacy. So that started rolling into more speaking gigs. And I also think just, general maturity, right? When I started at 20, I thought I was dressed up in a shirt and tie and a short sleeve shirt, right? I had the South Philly special, right? And I also think just maybe in that time period, when you're 21, 22, 23, I don't care how smart you are, how driven you are people going to take you seriously if you're 45 or 20 years in? So I think a lot of people started to have respect for me more as a business person than necessarily a computer person, because it's like, okay, listen, this kid came out here. I'll never forget my first chamber event. I referred to myself as Gold Man on stage because I had a gold shirt with the short sleeves and, probably better, we'll see, maybe the same, better guns, and I told, it was like near the end of the year, the beginning of the year, and I was literally on stage in front of a couple hundred people. I'm like, and let me tell you, Pro Computer Service, we're going to rock the house. Like it was a wrestling promo. People are probably, I thought it was great, but people probably looking at this thing like, who's this idiot? And then guess what? If you go 10 years later, 2010, 2011, 2012, all the folks that thought I was an idiot weren't in business. They didn't make it. But here's me still standing there and, advancing my career, not only just with PCS, expanding locations, being blessed with being on TV, getting my own segment every Friday, then every Saturday. So it's kind of like, this guy ain't going away. Like at this point, he's kind of married to the community. So let's figure out a way to do business. And I think people saw my network. So they're like, you know what? I want to know some of the people that he knows. Mm-hmm. So I was able to really return the favor, which is good and bad, right? Because I was talking to my COO today about it. I used to love to go to networking events, and I would say if I give my card or get someone's card, I'm like, again, 22, 23, I can't believe this guy, girl, he won't spend 15 or 20 minutes with me. And then now it's like I get it because I get 18,000 requests. And all people want to do is get in front just to pitch.
Yeah.
Right. There's no two-way. Like I always try to look for a two-way street. Like if I'm going to ask you for a meeting, I'm going to come to you and say, hey, listen, I got XYZ as clients, friends, partners, and I think this lines up with your business. Does that help you? And then, hey, how can we help each other? Mm-hmm. But, I'm not coming to dinner with just my appetite these days where, look, I just as guilty. I would go to networking events with a stack of cards like this, like, oh, I'm the next best thing. Like everyone wants to talk to me. And
yeah.
So it's kind of coming full circle.
Yeah. I remember those early days. Somebody finally pulled me aside and said, do you get paid by the number of business cards you hand out?
Yeah. So I wasn't that bad. You've been at the events, right? Where people just literally,
yeah.
I would never just hand you a card, right? Like, maybe at the end, I'd be like, hey, do you mind if I give you my card?
Yeah.
There's some that they just come up to you and hard pitch you, and it's like, okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's some that seems like they have a quota to get rid of. Tell me about your transition to managed services.
That was a tough one. So, as we talked earlier, I mean, I could tell you mortgage people were probably the most interesting people I worked with. Football season, they're on the gambling sites, stock sites, maybe a few other risque sites. And really the only detriment to get them to stop doing it was who was ever paying the bill was angry because they had to pay me an hourly rate to clean their computer because virus infected, Trojans, malware. And the industry started making a change right around 2010, maybe even a little sooner. We might have been late adopters in this where it's a fixed monthly fee. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, oh man, this is a problem, because if it's a fixed monthly fee now, yeah, the business owner's upset if their employee did something stupid on the computer, but now it's not really charging them more.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny in the industry, right? When we were charging hourly, it was always like, oh, I heard you could fix that in an hour, not 3, or right. All of a sudden, hours mattered.
Right.
Well, then on the flip side, basically what we did getting into managed service, we would take a 2-year history of the hours with an hourly rate less 10% and go to our client and say, hey, listen, here's what you spent historically. We're going to take 10% off if you lock into this monthly fee, call us as much as you want, never worry about it. And then the funny thing is, the clients would actually look at the bill like, oh, you're not spending enough time. Like, it didn't matter, right? Like,
yeah.
the bill, like, you got the same service, but it was just kind of funny seeing the paradigm shift that all they did was, oh, you should be quicker, more efficient, didn't take so long. And now it's like, am I really getting my money's worth?
Mm-hmm.
I feel underappreciated. Like, why'd you only, it's like you could do 75 hours a month for 5 months. And then once 1 month is 40 hours, like, yeah, we got to talk about lowering the bill. It's like, guys, you're supposed to be 45 hours a month. You have 1 month under. Yeah, but we're on a trend now. Trend isn't 1 month.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was an interesting transition. It was something that I didn't know if it would really be sustainable. And what I would say now, we'd never be able to be the size that we are, because you need that predictable revenue. I mean, just with the snow we've had here on the East Coast, back in the day, and I'm talking pre-2010, I always used to tell my team, one bad day of non-billables took 2 good days to break us even.
Mm-hmm.
I used to hate holidays. It stunk for my first 10 years in business. Everyone's celebrating things, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm paying 15 people, and now with managed services, that also blends out, right? We're still working holidays. There could be a call or a manufacturer or a police department. But it normalizes everything for everyone.
Yeah. What was the biggest lesson learned in that massive transition?
The biggest lesson learned was really having a massive amount of patience. It was tough from all levels. 1, I didn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
2, I had to figure it out, which took a while. 3, I felt like I had to resell all my accounts again, kind of reproving our worth. And the other thing is, which, you and probably people watching this will laugh, I'm going to show you all my contracts for the first 13 years. You ready? You want to see our contract?
Right.
So then I had to go back and get contracts. And, as our insurance got more serious, like the insurance company laughed at us. They're like, oh, where's your copy of your contract? I'm like, we shake hands.
Yeah.
The insurance company's like, what are you talking about? Like, but literally they would laugh. I would sit, desk to desk, and I said, at the end of the day, and we still vet. The funny thing is, we have contracts and they're detailed and legal and all that stuff, but all of our contracts have a 30-day out still, because our sales pitch as a company is we got to earn it every month.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these companies, they'll sell you a 3-year deal. They're awesome for the honeymoon period. Then they kind of stink for 12 or 18 months. Then some rep sees, renewal's 9 months, and they tell you about all the new bells and whistles and reports and all these features you're going to get. And hey, by the way, let's talk renewal in a few months.
Yeah.
So I still think we keep that old school feel by having a 30-day. And in a weird way, I think it's a great sales tool, because if someone's trying to lock me into a 3-year deal, I got to think long and hard. 3 years is a long time.
Yeah.
If someone's telling me hey, listen, you could fire me in 30 days if I'm not doing the job, I kind of have a little comfort with that. So that's what we're trying to share.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I know there's a lot of vendors that kind of go that same direction, and not always a big thing with MSPs as well. Especially because you're holding the bag for your clients if you're locked in the wrong direction. Yeah,
well, and that's the other thing too. I mean, in hindsight, it's really a benefit to us as well, because if you have a bad client, which in every industry, forget MSP, there's some times where a client's just not a fit, and I always joke when people, especially in my world, they're like, oh, you got to lock them in, multi-year revenue, highest sale value. And it's like, yeah, but you lock them in, and what if the person wants to get out? So they just submit 2,000 tickets because it's unlimited. It's all you can eat. And now they could say they could sue you for breaking SLA. And it's just, and I think that's an extreme situation. It won't happen, but could it? Sure.
Right.
So I just think, and the other thing is, I've always looked at business across the board. If you don't want to do business with us, why should some piece of paper? Now, if I have hard costs associated with it, right? Like I get it with the telecom companies, right? You're building out a network, you're running your fiber, and you're really subsidizing that cost. Well, yeah, pay for that. We had a client in our Delaware office that they were a great client, awesome. And then guess what happened? Private equity got in and they bought them. Well, the client signed with us for, a year of Microsoft licensing, and it wasn't small. There were 200 and some users. Now we have to go to litigation just to get paid because when the client signed that contract with us, we paid for all that office licensing.
Mm-hmm.
The firm's like, well, we don't need to pay it. It's like, yeah, you do. So,
Right.
I mean, that's some of the stuff and some of the challenges. And if we weren't a larger MSP to absorb that cost or legal or anything else, it could be devastating.
Mm.
That's some of the not so fun times, right?
Yeah, absolutely. How long through this was it really you bringing in the deals? How long was it owner-led sales?
15 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had a little help here and there. Didn't really have a great sales team. Mark, who really runs all of Cumberland and Atlantic County, we've always just had a natural kind of inbound thing going. Jake, who runs Delaware through DC, is a bit more of a hunter like me. But we were part-time, right? Like I'm running the business, Jake's running the business. Mark's doing more technical work probably than all of us, with Jake being a close second there. So it wasn't like we really had full-time business development. Finally, a friend of mine who was actually a client came on board about 9 years ago and fully dedicated just doing sales. And he's done a great job.
Oh, wow.
So one of the things we're looking to do now, ironically enough, put an offer letter out today, is for a channel partner manager. Different than sales, right? Sales. But really finding those partners that we work with a lot that we could help, offering agent agreement payments and, think about it more like the telecom model, right? Everyone in VoIP, there's 18 people getting paid on every deal, but, the margins are so good that they all do well.
Yeah. So what you talk about kind of the 2010 to 2018, where you went from 10 to like 60, 70 employees. And then from 2018 through, I guess, 24, closing out 24, I think you end up at, was it 230?
Yeah, you know what? I have to pull up the exact number. I call it 240. Publicly, we say 250.
Okay.
One time I saw 230, so we're gonna go in the middle, 240.
All right. So what changed in you again? Because I mean, again, at 70 to 240, that's a massive difference.
So a couple things. One, I think absolute fear over COVID. Kind of, that was, I had my mortgage industry crash in 2019. And then, if you actually look at the history of our career, actually, right, when I started the business, there was the dot-com crash.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was thinking, YPK. Yeah.
So when I start the business, it's a dot-com crash, but, overhead was low. Mom was making me lunch. I was living at home.
Yeah.
Laundry was good. So a little easier. I had nothing, really had nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
I literally had nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the dot-com crash. Then we had the mortgage crash and the subprime bubble, which, made me better. And then, aside from PCS, right, when this whole COVID thing hit and started, I own a networking group, right? Jersey Man and Philly Man magazine. Our primary revenue is in-person networking events. I could tell you our revenue during COVID, about zero.
Mm-hmm.
A little more than that, but not much. I had our cybersecurity company. I have our software development company. And, my greatest superpower was going out and doing in-person networking. I'm a belly-to-belly salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what happened was a couple things. One was a little luck again, where we got into the global incident response. And, the industry there is getting a little bit saturated. But we were the OGs. Like, we were working for everyone, flying around. And fortunately, we were able to develop ways that we didn't need to necessarily travel across the U.S. or Canada or anywhere, where we made these jump boxes where we could still continue that business. So that was good. Number two, during COVID, we really got our processes together. We had no processes. My claim to fame, and hopefully my attorney's not listening, but he knows. I made it up to like 180 people without an HR person.
Wow.
No HR. Like, okay, you have a problem? Like, talk to Lisa, talk to Trace, talk to me, we'll figure it out. There was no formal process. Yeah, then we have a handbook and the legal stuff that we needed, but we really didn't have that. So I think that, I was devastated during COVID because aside from PCS, I had 8 or 9 other businesses and business partners basically looking at me for guidance. Like, hey, what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
I led up in the community here trying to reopen New Jersey. And I think it just lit a fire. But the other thing that also happened during COVID was really 2 things. We actually switched from an MSP, and I'm sure a lot of the other MSPs feel this, we switched from an MSP to a utility. Customers that really didn't value what we did are now like, wait a second. If PCS doesn't keep our servers running and we're not in the office, my entire team's down.
Mm-hmm.
So people instead of looking at IT and folks like us as a cost center, they now looked at us as a moneymaker. So in terms of getting paid, I think we made the top 3 because you need that server running.
Yeah.
So I think that part was really helpful. And I think the other part that really helped us get moving, aside from just being a utility, it's whammo. It's right in your face. People now that were, avoiding different things like, oh, well, we don't need this much bandwidth, or we don't need a penetration test, or they're like, you know what, we need it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they continue to do so. And on top of all that, the hackers being the hackers, right? It's a business. Like, everyone thinks the hackers hate people, and they really don't. They just want to make a lot of money. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So I think during that time, during COVID, hackers really took advantage of folks because now I don't need to breach the corporate network. I could breach your home, and then I could use your home computer to tunnel my way in. So, and the insurance companies losing money on top of that really made the services that we have and, the plus stuff, right? Not just the MSP, but, hey, can you harden my network? Hey, can we upgrade our backups? That really panned out a lot during there. So I think it's a combination of us being the name of the community, us having the bandwidth to do what we need, but also some third-party circumstances where, look, if your insurance company says to you, if you don't have 2-factor and EDR, we're not insuring you. We're not salespeople. We're order takers at that point.
Yeah. So a huge boom during COVID.
We really did, yeah.
Sounds like huge challenges in many of your other businesses, though.
I mean, it wasn't. I mean, look, I'm looking back, right? It sounds easy, but it was painful. I mean, it was tough just trying to figure it out. I mean, one of the businesses that I'm invested in, they run cabling. Have fun, right?
Yeah.
And like Jersey was rough. Imagine being in, the greater Philadelphia area. They were locked down more than we were.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious what, there's a learning to 10 employees there's that, but there's these arcs where it's like, wow, 10 years there, 7 or 8 years to get to 60, 70, and then even less time, right? Something like 7 or 8 years past that, 6 years to get to 240. What is it that you like? What changed in you from a mindset or from some other perspective? Because somewhere along the way, you went from 1 to how many businesses now?
A lot. I would say like a functional, actual operational businesses, probably 9. And when I say that, there's some holding companies for real estate and things like that. I'm fortunate there. Let me just put an asterisk up there. I'm not Elon Musk actually actively running all these, as it seems he does. I've been fortunate enough when I buy into a lot of these businesses that, there's a couple we founded, but, my partners are experts in their space, right? I could come out here and say, oh, I own 2 software development companies. I'm a bat phone. I'm a board member. I'm a friend. I'm a mentor. But they know the business, right? I couldn't tell you how to do any of that stuff. So that's part of my gut, right? Saying, hey, is this the right person? And, I've been blessed quite a bit that, a lot of the people that I'm partners with, I knew them and worked with them for 10 years before. Mm-hmm. But I think from mindset, there's a lot of things, right? I wish I had more time, and I definitely got to make make some time. I probably read in that period 400 books. Some of my favorites being Think and Grow Rich, which I still try to reread or listen to sleeping, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Atomic Habits. So there were so many good books where I was able to learn a lot of different things. I mean, it's old, but it's still great. Tony Robbins, Get the Edge, the 7-day program. It sounds hokey, and yeah, Tony's a little crazy, but the fundamentals and the mindset really help. And also, I mean, look, I mean, how many people, and they're 44, right? I have about 9 months to 45 that can have a 25th anniversary logo in their email coming up. And the point of all that is I've been so blessed to meet so many mentors. And, I always consider my business model and just my personal growth model Frankenstein. You meet people and everyone has a superpower. Mm-hmm. I don't care if they have, 10 negative things about them and one awesome thing. You can learn something from everyone.
Yeah.
And, just by being out, right, every nightclub, being the IT person, and especially the hands-on IT person when I was younger, I clocked in a lot of time with a lot of CEOs that were very successful that their employees couldn't get time with, but I did because I was their outsourced IT guy, and that put me up high on the food chain. So, it sounds cheesy and people hear it all the time. And my COO actually for Christmas got me this shirt, 1% better every day, because she's sick of hearing it. Every meeting, everything we do, like, what can we do just to be 1% better? Mm-hmm. It doesn't sound like much, but every day that compounds. That 1%'s well over 1,000% per year, but you just got to find it.
Yeah. So how do you live that out yourself?
So what I do is I basically force myself to do it. And by saying that, I let my calendar run my life. So there's certain things that people don't believe that I do, but I'm so probably stupidly consistent where I'm too rigid in some ways. Mm-hmm. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6:45 to 7:45, I'm at the gym. Mm-hmm. Saturday, I'm at the gym. Mondays, 5 o'clock, I'm taking piano lessons. The every night club is no more, right? I am only out basically 2 nights past maybe like 7, because I'm tucking my kids in 5 nights a week, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm able to be more efficient. And the one thing we didn't talk about, and it could be a whole other thing, is 10 years ago, maybe even a little longer, 12 years ago, my life kind of sucked because I was driving 35,000 miles a year. I'm on the phone, probably driving dangerously because I'm texting and trying to catch up and do this and do that. One of the biggest game changers is I built a mobile office and hired a full-time driver. I haven't really, I joke, I haven't really driven on a highway in work time and, all that time, 13 years, 14, whatever it is. We're on our third version of the car. My first mobile office, which thankfully I didn't die in because the engineering wasn't that great. I had a GMC Arcadia with a desk built in front of me, and I worked, and I drove in that thing for 9 years. When I got the new one, someone hit us into a pole. The desk would have basically cut me in half.
Wow.
Now I'm in a Sprinter van, and I was in a Transit before that. But it's buying time. That's all we have.
Yeah, I think so many people miss that, right? And you were nice enough to show me your tech tank, and I think this is a really cool example, right? If you want to be in front of people and you want to build a relationship, then it requires a lot of miles. And it always surprises me how people won't hire the executive assistant, won't generally even more hire somebody to drive them around, hire all these things, but then you end up texting while you're driving. You end up missing out on tucking your kids in. There's these things you're like, I can't do that, but you end up doing this. So you were certainly kind of still are an outlier, and especially, over a decade ago with paying somebody to drive you around so that you could be productive in between meetings. What led you to even do that?
Well, embarrassed to admit what led me, because guilty of those said things. In New Jersey, they always had circles, right? And when you go down the highways, there's these circles, and they're really dangerous, right? You get a bunch of yield signs, a bunch of people not paying attention, and you basically just merge in. So Probably, I would say in the last 15 years, they really started getting rid of them. There's still a few. If any friends from the East Coast are going to Long Beach Island down the shore, you'll see those circles still. But a lot of the major roads, they're gone. Uh, I wasn't paying attention right before a light that led to a circle, and I slammed someone from behind.
Mm.
And apologized profusely. It was my fault, right? I'm not going to be, you can, whatever.
Right.
So I said to the lady, I said, hey, listen, I'm going to give you $1,000 more for, all the problems. I'm going to pay for your car, get an estimate. Here's my card, And so they got their car fixed. I went to the house. I gave them a little extra money. And I ended up being at the same location. And some kid did the same thing to me that I did to them. Hit me from behind. Probably why I had to get a little treatment on my neck last week, right? When that was a pretty violent one. And I just remember saying, I'm like, okay, I could have prevented that from happening. 100%. I'm parked at a red light, right? I'm stopped. I said, but I could have prevented the week before. I said, I am going to text and drive. I know I am. Like you could tell yourself, oh, well, I'll behave. I'll put my phone over here. You see that big customer or that prospect that you're working on, that phone goes off. So there was a liquor company over in Pennsylvania that was a really big opportunity for us at the time. And I'm like, you know what? If we get this company, I'm going to hire someone to drive. I didn't think really about the tech tank. So then I started thinking.
Well, let me jump in 1 second. Give me a size of the business. Like how many folks did you have when you were kind of going through these thoughts?
Small compared to now. I mean, I couldn't afford it, to be honest. We were probably just a little bit under 3 million in revenue.
Yeah. So not even 20 people, right? Yeah.
No, it was small. But remember too, and this is the other thing where I probably made some mistakes back in the day. I didn't empower people enough, right? So I was also taking on more work than I should have when I definitely had capable people that I just thought I could do it better. And I don't even think it was ego or cocky. It wasn't like, hey, I'm smarter than you. It was just, I've been doing this since day one. And I didn't want to give it up, right? Yeah. So I might have actually, and maybe I'm glad it didn't happen that way. Because if I did give that up, maybe I won't have the tech tank, right? So I'll never forget. I go to this GMC dealer over in Marlton. And the guy's like, hey, what are you looking at? What are you thinking? I'm like, I think the GMC Arcadia looks like a good car. Hey, great. Do you want to test drive it? I'm like, no, but can you do me a favor? I want to sit in the back row. Can you drive it? So this car salesman's like, probably, what's this? Like, he probably thought, like, thankfully I don't look that intimidating, so I don't think he thought he was going to get robbed. So he's like, yeah, no problem. Where do you want to go? I was like, yeah, just take it around. I want you to hit the highway and, let's see how it feels. So as we're driving, the guy's like, hey, sir, like, what are you thinking? Why am I driving you in the back? I said, I got this wacky idea, so I have a question for you before I answer that. These middle seats, because it was 3 rows of seats, your front, your middle, and your back. I said, do you think they come out? The guy's like, I don't know. Like, no one's ever asked me that before.
Right.
And he goes, let's get back. He goes, but I'm sure they do, right? Like, it's just no one asked me. So went back, we looked, and he's like, so what are you thinking? I said, well, what I want to do is I actually want to convert this car into an office. So there was 3 seats in the back. I'm in the middle. We ripped out the middle rows. The seat, your right seat, I actually turned into a little office station. So I had a printer. So basically I ripped out the trunk and I used almost like if you ever saw a police car, how they have all this stuff in the back, their internet, their power, their backup power. So I had all these batteries built into the back of the trunk to power up printers and monitors. And my first prototype, I went on the road and I wanted to hang myself. So one thing for anyone out there, if you want to build a mobile office, do not use a mouse, because when you're driving, the laser pointer. So I'm like, I can't believe it. I spent all this time and money. So I'm like, I have to fix it.
Yeah.
So then I realized we Velcroed down a keyboard that had a touchpad, almost like, my trackpad here. So when you're on the road, this works just fine.
Yeah.
So, figured that thing out. And then my initial driver ended up getting a job in manufacturing, because manufacturing was a little slow then. So, I helped him out. He helped me out. I had a friend from a Latip group who worked for a limo company that life's brutal. Like, you only get paid when you work, you're on call all day. Well, that's how we got the real tech tank, because he had a CDL and we didn't need a CDL for the Sprinter. But he's like, why don't we just something fun? So I buy this Ford Transit van, 10 years, 8 years ago, whatever. And then we do this thing up. 4 TVs, printers, refrigeration, multiple monitors. Like, okay. And now I'm literally, if you're driving like this. So my driver's like this. I'm in the car like this. So now if there's a direct head-on impact, I don't have to worry about a desk going through me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot more stable. It was a lot bigger. And then, we moved on to the Mercedes Sprinter van that I bought about 3 years ago. And if I tell you, forget the most important part. I shouldn't say forget. The most important part is the amount of time I picked up, the time I could spend with my family.
Mm-hmm.
But the other stuff that you don't realize, your stress level. I'm always connected. I do TV. I have a full studio set up in there. I could do TV. I do TV now in Florida, Jersey, Pennsylvania, right from that car, anywhere with my satellite connection.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a wild concept. And I really, especially for the attorneys, there's attorneys I know that are billing $400, $500, $600 an hour when they're driving.
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
Imagine, right? You have that document that sneaks in right before you go to court, or imagine you pick up your client and you could print out all the legal documentation right in the car. You have your notary sitting there. You're done.
Mm-hmm.
Title companies, mortgage companies, you could be the closing company to go.
Mm-hmm.
And what people don't realize, it's a move. Like, people pay $5,000 a month for a billboard. I have a billboard that goes everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that super unconventional way to not only advertise, but I love how you talked about basically buy back your time. And what I think some people miss is the difference in stress.
It's a game changer. And I joke with the new tech tank, as we affectionately call TT3, there's a bathroom in there. We only have one rule. Rule number 1, no number 2s. But I can't even tell you, if you're on a long trip, like next week, I'm going to the United Nations headquarters in New York. If we get stuck in that traffic, I used to laugh, my old driver, not my current one, but he would always have a Wawa Big Gulp, because when driving, you sometimes we get caught for hours. And, when nature calls.
Yeah.
And we don't have to worry about that now. We can pull to the side of the highway. Like, I could do it driving. I've gotten very good at that. But if he needs it, so I mean, it's all about efficiency. That's all you have is your time.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. What are other ways you've realized you need to delegate or let go?
So probably the biggest thing that I let go of, and they do a great job, is the accounting and the bookkeeping, right? Believe it or not, up until 2017, I would the team would put time entries, and for you MSP owners out there, the agreements come in and this, and I would go in there and invoice, send, not really check anything, but I would know that it was going out.
Yeah.
And finally, people are like, you're billing stuff that's not closed, and this and that, and I was like, well, we're going to lose so much money, because through the years, I would see on different ways, like I would just do audits randomly. I'm like, okay, we lost 8 hours there. Blah, 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 blah. So I lost trust in humanity, because, look, every business owner is going to care about their P&L and their money more than anyone, right? Unless you incentivize someone, but you can't incentivize everyone for every possible thing, right? It's just not, then everyone's a business owner. But what I could say is, when I gave up that element in terms of the invoice creation, the daily bookkeeping, AR, AP, world of difference. They make me look JV. And I was handling a lot less workload than they were, because the company's a lot bigger. So, I mean, that was one of the big ones. Delegating my schedule. Elisa from the team here, she runs my life. I would say yes to everything. I was double booking, triple booking myself. And it made it at the end of the day, my heart was there. I wanted to go to both events, but then I would end up, making someone sad. Like, you had to choose one, or the ultimate slap in the face. Sometimes I would go to one event, kind of do the Irish goodbye, and head to the other one. It's like, well, where's Aunt?
Yeah.
So, it was just really trying to make people happy all the time. And, just pretty much delegating everything. I like to say that Lisi runs my life, Monday till about Friday at like 4:30, and then my wife Shelly takes over from there, and then Sunday I go visit my mom because that's what good Italian boys do.
Let me switch gears. What's the biggest lesson you've learned in all your years in business?
Any way you want me to focus that, because there's a lot of lessons.
Yeah, I'm curious.
We could go into cash flow, people, credit lines, finance, marketing.
Yeah.
Is there any line? Because I there's probably a best in each.
I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. I know from my perspective, very few MSPs make it to 30, let alone 70, let alone 240, right? So I think for everybody that's made it to 10,
okay,
it's been a decade there, I can relate to that. Like, what do you do? Like, what's the next step? So part of me wants to ask that, and part of me wants to know what's your best, biggest lesson you learned. Either of those would be wonderful.
So I guess what I'll say, if we're doing like an all-encompassing, just universal kind of thing, I think the biggest lesson for any MSP or business owner is you really have to train your mindset. Mindset is everything. It's, I see these companies that a lot of times they put the cart in front of the horse. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And, they have spreadsheets and PE and, all this skill. But if you are not mentally tough and you're not resilient, don't get in this business.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds kind of stupid, but you have to have, so if you're going to grow, you have to believe in yourself a great deal, and you have to, and it sounds easy on paper, right? Everyone's tough, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, I would have doubled that bet on blackjack, or I would have it's easy,
Sure.
It's very easy when times are good, right? And good times are great. Enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
But in every business, I don't care, all of my businesses, you're going to have someone that tries to ruin your day. You're going to have a hater. You're going to deal with a crazy customer. You're going to have someone. And if you can't get through those situations while keeping your composure, you will never succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you, I've seen so many winners, like people that should have conquered the world, far superior to what I brought to the table, smarter, you name it, every category. But there was one thing that I had that they didn't. I didn't quit. There's a lot of quitters out there. Mm-hmm. And so the biggest lesson, I guess I would say to sum it up, is you never quit. Mm-hmm. You never lose. The battle's never over, right?
Right.
And I might get it wrong because it's been a little bit. I've only read Think and Grow Rich like 70 times, right? But with kids and all that, I haven't listened to it too much. But the quote I always like, right? Life's battles don't always go to the smarter or faster man. They go to the man who thinks he can.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's pretty profound.
Yeah, I love Think and Grow Rich.
It's such a great. We could have a whole thing on that. And for those out there, do you ever hear of Outwitting the Devil?
That is wonderful.
Did you ever read that book?
Yes.
There's only 2 books I read in one sitting. It was Outwitting the Devil,
mm-hmm.
and Robin Sharma's first book, the Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Interesting. I haven't read that
book. Start reading that thing at 7:00 at night. Don't make this mistake I did. I started reading it at 9, and then I fall asleep till 2:30 because I had to finish it. It was so good.
I love that. What's one thing that if you could go back, you'd do over or do differently?
So that's an easy one. I would have been a smarter business person in a sense of allowing more people to do more things earlier. I would have documented our processes. I would have been more strategic. I was always running around like the Tasmanian devil.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows, right? Maybe if I changed those things, maybe we wouldn't be. But I do think if I spent even a little bit of time actually documenting my thoughts, putting things down together, we probably would have been in a better spot. But, I could see someone rolling their eyes like, hey, dude, you got 230 people and, you're a pretty big privately owned company. So I'm not saying that in a way that like, oh, man, I really screwed up. But, in the context of the question, that's something I would have definitely changed.
Sure. Well, given the world we're in now, the amazing opportunities to change all the things. What's something you're looking forward to?
So I'm looking forward to a lot of things. I mean, we're going to ever change and ever grow as a business. At our holiday party, the whole thing that we always talk about is how, this year's PCS is going to be very different than next year's PCS. And it's really, looking at the things that are out there. I think our biggest asset as a company is we want to be human still, right? You look at a lot of these big companies, Five Guys, right? You call them up to order a burger, you're talking to a robot. You call PCS, you're talking to a person. So how can we use this technology and this AI and all this not to replace people, but to enhance people? So, for instance, one or two of our team members used to listen to phone calls, right? And grade them. Hey, this is a better way to talk to a client, do this. So this doesn't impact our customers at all. I guess it does through better service, but we now have AI listening to every phone call. So now, instead of having to have a person, we could program in keywords, call my manager. Now, the good and the bad news is the AI right now is putting up a lot of false positives, right? Like if a customer calls in like, oh, my blah, blah, blah is down, the AI is going like, customer's angry.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're not angry at us. They're angry at their situation, right? But the interesting thing is there's a lot of, I'll call it custom software that people use sometimes that they didn't have the best developer make it. So if I won't say the application's names, but we actually, for each service group, program the application name in. So if they say that on the call, it alerts the people who are the experts in those, hey, this might be rolling to you.
Nice.
So it's making us more efficient. So, I mean, I think, just with all this going on and the future and everything else, it's how do we use this technology and how do we blend this to get a competitive advantage? Because at the end of the day, right, we all have access to the same stuff. It's who's going to implement it better, who's going to be smarter, and who's going to adapt more. And I think that's the opportunity.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially when it comes to AI and helping people, right? Not replacing people.
And I think look, at the end of the day, I think AI, as smart as it is, as many problems, it's not right all the time, but either are human beings, right? But I also think companies that can find a way to be extra human in an AI world, they're going to thrive. I mean, no, like these like I had to schedule, I have a hardware issue in actually the Mac in my tech tank. It keeps losing the time. Went through every troubleshooting step, terminal, replace this. If I tell you how much of a pain it was to get an appointment, it was miserable. But if I talk to a human being,
yeah.
But now I'm sure Apple's looking at it as well. We spent 0 man hours on you, so great.
Right.
And ultimately, right, I got my appointment. I'll be there this Saturday. But what's that experience like? But again, if you look at these bigger companies, right, if I want to buy a Mac, how many options do I have?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a Big Mac, right? But that's not going to fix my computer.
That's right.
That's these big companies. They have you.
Yeah. We can't forget that. Even you're much larger than most MSPs, but if you forget the human aspect, you won't be for long.
No, we'll be smaller.
Yeah. Let me flip that around. What's your biggest challenge? What is it that you're challenged with right now?
AI. I mean, 100%. It's really understanding it and trying to figure out, where it's going to be, what it's going to replace, and how it's going to go. I mean, I really don't worry about competition as much these days because there's enough business out there with everyone outsourcing. I really just, how do we take advantage of the technology without, one, losing our purpose, right? Two, making sure that we're using it in a way that, again, I had mentioned earlier, we're empowering people, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, how do you think it would look if, we get these, AI cyborgs doing tickets and then you look to your left, you look to your right, and your friend's gone?
Yeah.
And it's also trying to figure out how to stay competitive, right? One of the things I laughed about, they were talking 2 years ago and, all these tech guys, Elon Musk, them all, they're like, hey, AI could be a threat to humanity, right? Well, at the end of the day, okay, I agree with that, right? So the U.S. could be, okay, we'll shut off AI. China's going to keep it on.
That's right.
So we, in principle, we don't like this. It's like anything else. You might not like something, But if it's reality, you better accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. There's a lot of
so that scares me the most. There's not many things that scare me, but AI does.
Yeah, it's an interesting time because you could see it as a tool, which could be used for good or bad, and it will be used for both, and it is. But it's also very unprecedented in the pace of change.
I didn't get to check it out last night, but I'm terrified to see. They had the Grok 3 announcement, which I plan on looking at tonight. It was 11 o'clock at night, and I'm if I was in my 20s, I would have not watching it, but in my 40s, I was in bed.
Oh, the demand is so high you can't access the site yet, so you haven't missed the actual using it part yet. But yeah, it's interesting. It's not boring as much as it changes, right? The pace of change. That's kind of one of my thoughts is how do we help people with a pace of change that we've never seen before? I mean, I think in IT we're gifted because we're more not only resilient, but we're more used to change than maybe our clients are. But we're facing just a unprecedented level of change. How do we even adapt and start to learn, let alone help the clients with it?
I almost feel like, they talk about doctors practicing, right? Well, if you're an MSP, right, I refer to two types of IT people, and I'm just talking in like the network engineering system admin space. So developers out there, don't get angry at me, but I look at internal IT people as house cats, right? They can't survive on the street, right? MSPs, we're alley cats, right? We got to figure this out. We got to jump in that trash can. We got to find some food. Guess what? There's no food on the street. We got to go crawl to another neighborhood.
Yeah.
And, if you look at my average person here, on a daily basis, they might jump into 5, 6, 7, 8 different computer networks with different configurations, different subnets, different products. Okay, you got Datto, you got Veeam. So we have to know a lot. So I feel like working at PCS is not only a paycheck, but it's also a constant education because you also have that person left or right of you that has different skill sets. So I feel like our people evolve a lot better. And, it hasn't happened recently, like probably years ago when we were smaller, someone would take a job at a school district to get extra benefits, a little money. I'm like, listen, this is great. Take it, buy your house, do what you want. But you better get out of there in 3 or 4 years because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be 40, 45, or 50, and maybe there's not a spot for you. And you're going to come into the real world and you're going to say, I don't know any of this technology.
Yeah.
I know none of it. And you're going to basically, sell your future. So that's where I think the MSP side is strong because we are constantly evolving because we have to. If we're not evolving, our competitor is going to do something different, better, faster, and, we'll be left in the dust.
I love the alley cat analogy.
That's one of my favorites. I don't even know when I started saying it, but it's been a long time.
I know you've shared so many. What are the top books you'd recommend?
So by far, the Bible, Think and Grow Rich, the Bible of Business, not to insult any religion, the Bible of Business to specify. Outwitting the Devil is another great one. One thing that really actually helped me was, believe it or not, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's just a great book on, culture, humanity, and just, understanding what makes people tick. And if you look at the stuff that I read, a lot of it's like early 1900s. And, we have all this social media and all this stuff, but the core of people really hasn't changed.
Right.
Atomic Habits, amazing book. Start with Why. That's really about the why culture, right? And we used to make all of our leadership team read that book. And what I give to any salesperson here is a different book. It's called The Go-Giver. The Go-Giver is just really amazing. Good to Great, Jim Collins. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. More recent favorite is the 5 a.m. Club. That's also Robin Sharma. And there's a book. It's not widely known. He had a bank fail pretty much did fail in like the UK. It was the creator of Commerce Bank here on the East Coast that actually sold the TD Bank. He ended up creating another bank that didn't do so good. It's on the pink slips right now. They sold to Fulton Bank. But his book, Vernon Hill, it's called Fans, Not Customers. You won't find this. Like, I'm sure if you go on Amazon or whatever, it's for sale. that book truly inspired me. Vernon wrote this book, and like some of the it's just it's so human, right? So, for instance, one of the things in the book is no stupid rules. If it's a stupid rule, eliminate it, right? So, make sure your people are empowered. Like, so, for instance, for the MSPs out there, one of your customers has a failed hard drive, but your policy is a customer needs to approve anything over $100 before it gets purchased, right? Well, guess what? If they have a failed hard drive, buy the hard drive and get it out there. If they complain about it later, never do them a favor again, right? But, and you have to set a limit, right? You don't let your team spend $10,000, but hey, listen, if there's something under $500 that you need to do it, let your team do it. And my favorite rule from his book was, if it's a yes, it's a yes. It takes at least 2 people to say no. So before I tell you no, I can't do something, I might think it's no, but I say, I got to put you on hold. I go to my supervisor and say, listen, I want to say no. So 2 no's? Okay, maybe it's not possible. But you just can't say no. You're not allowed to say no on your own.
I love that.
So, I could go over so many more, but that'll keep you busy.
Yeah, this is a wonderful list, Anthony. How can folks that have stayed to the end, love this, want more, how can folks find you online, connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty easy, other than the spelling of my last name. So an easy way, if you want to look me up on any social media or reach out, my email is pretty simple. It's just anthony@helpmepcs.com. You could go to our website. You can see all the stuff that we're doing. I stay somewhat active on Twitter at PCS_Anthony M, again, because no one wants to spell Mangiluso. And then we keep a pretty dynamic social media presence just with the company at Help Me PCS pretty much across all platforms. So if you get frisky and want to Google my last name, you can see all the goods because we're pretty public.
I love that. Make sure to take Anthony up on that. This has been amazing. I feel like I could talk to you for hours and hours more. Thank you for your time, your energy, your gifts, and thank you for being on MSP Mindset.
And likewise, I'm trying to look at the clock, but I have a block. That went fast. I don't know how long it was. Whoa, yeah, we did pretty good.